And welcome back. It's now 25 minutes to 8 o'clock. It's time for The Way It Is. The guest that we have that we're going to be engaging on this shortly is Canon Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer, and also Honorable Joe Mutambo, who's a former member of parliament from Mwingi Central. But we're going to set the pace for that in just a bit. But a quick reminder of that question that we're asking this morning, and we'd like to find out, what are your expectations from the much anticipated presidential address? What are your expectations from the much anticipated presidential address? We do know that he's going to be chairing the National Coronavirus Disease Conference today, and out of that we're expecting advice of whether we're going to relax as a country some of the rules that have been put in place, one of them being like the curfew in regards to COVID-19. So that's the question this morning. I'm going to be reading through your comments as we go along shortly. But first, let's look at the way it is. And now the country is set to know the measures that will govern the COVID-19 new normal. The COVID-19 conference will take place at KICC today and will come up with measures which will be announced by President Uhuru Kenyatta during the national address. Many Kenyans are waiting for the decision on the lifting of the curfew and the reopening of schools.
After a rather abnormal 6 months battling COVID-19, the country is looking to chart the way forward, and the outcome of the Monday COVID-19 conference will define the new normal in the COVID-19 era.
We are praying and hoping for the best, but clearly we must also prepare for the worst.
Stakeholders from all sectors will gather at the KICC 196 days since Kenya reported the first COVID-19 case. Close to 38,000 cases have been confirmed, more than 24,000 people have recovered, and 689 people have lost their lives. It has been one big battle against COVID-19, one that began with challenges of its kind. The 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew came with cases of police brutality. The country was not prepared for isolation and quarantine with inadequate and ill-prepared centers. Quarantine fees were too costly for many, and contact tracing proved tricky. There was a shortage of PPEs and a testing backlog. Inadequate testing improved along the way with more testing centers. The government put in place containment measures, from the cessation of movement, closure of learning institutions, ban on local and international flights, closure of entertainment joints and eateries, the ban on public gatherings, and restricted number of people attending churches, weddings and funerals. The effects of COVID-19 were felt in many ways, through job losses, pay cuts and shutdown of businesses. Burial of those who lost their lives came with stigma. Hospital utilization reduced, with many mothers opting out of visiting hospital for pre- and postnatal care. There was a shortage of PPEs, as over 6 billion shillings worth of COVID-19 emergency supplies lie as dead stock in the KEMSA warehouse, in one of the biggest procurement scandals in the health sector. Over 6 months since the first COVID-19 case, the country has made strides towards flattening the curve. One step at a time, the government has been relaxing containment measures. From the lifting of the cessation of movement and flights, opening of eateries, increase in the number of people attending church services, funerals and weddings, and reducing curfew hours from 10 to 7. The government also adopted home-based care, and many patients have been recovering at home. With the economy still reeling under the effects of COVID-19 and learners almost losing an education calendar, all eyes are on the president. The Monday COVID-19 conference will chart the way forward for the economy and the health sector. The dates for the phased-out reopening of schools and whether or not the curfew will be lifted will be known on Tuesday during President Uhuru Kenyatta's national address. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
All right, and that's where we start off from. And I'll start with you, Honorable Mutambo. The CS for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, there is warning us and saying, whereas we are hoping for the best, let us prepare for the worst. Do you feel like we are prepared for the worst, despite 6 months of having restrictions and rules and regulations? Do you feel like we are prepared for the worst?
Mike, I don't know whether it can become any worse than it has been. Losing a lot of billions in scam is one of the worst things Kenyans have gone through, because those equipments were bought with the Kenyan taxpayers' money. And losing your money and losing hope, it cannot get any worse than that. So I want to tell my good friend CS, thank you very much. We have seen and we have gotten the worst. It has been here, you predicted it, it came, and we had it. So if you are telling us to prepare for anything worse than that, the only other thing is just for me to attend Weda's burial, or whether to go to Mingi and attend Mutambo's burial. That is the worst thing which can have happened. The worst has happened to Kenyans. Kenyans have gone through hell and back.
Whereas Honorable Mtambo, whereas you say that the worst maybe is the Kenyans' money being looted, if we had an upsurge of the disease, if we had more infections reported, if we relax the rules, that may be worse because we are likely to lose more lives. And one might argue we are ill-prepared.
I would totally agree that we are ill-prepared, and I would not, and I keep on repeating this, the decision government is going to take, I don't know what decision they will take, but we are not supposed to lower our guard because this pandemic is still here with us. And I always remind Kenyans that we went for lockdown when we had only one case, one. We had one case and everybody was sent to the bedrooms, go back home, stay in the bedroom, don't come out. So how do you tell me to come out when we have 100? It does not make any logic. If we have a vaccine to this disease, then it makes sense. If you tell me to take my child to school and wear a mask 12 hours, I don't know how safe that child will be. So we are still facing the worst scenario in this pandemic, and we should not lower our guard. If the government feels that they have done enough to let the dogs out or to let it loose, to tell people now, Kenyans, come out, do your normal business, go out there, do whatever you do, the coronavirus is no longer there, I will think twice, I personally. So it is the issue of Kenyans taking personal responsibility, because this thing we are getting reports on a daily basis. If Mutahi Kagwe is not pronouncing any numbers, I will not be interested by the numbers going down. Today we are announcing 70, 80, 50. 50 is still a higher number than 1, which sends us to bedrooms. So I am not convinced that this thing has already been taken care of. It is still here with us, and we should take the most careful measures so that we don't get infected.
All right.
Well, what's going to happen is this. If we send our children to school and one school reports a case and those children are withdrawn, to convince the parents next year to return them, it will be a hell.
It'll be a tall order. Ambrose Weda,
Yes.
The question that we have asked out there is the expectation from the presidential address after he chairs the national COVID-19 conference, which is taking place at KICC today. Honorable, or rather, Canon Weda, what is your expectation? Do you think the president should finally relax some of those rules?
Thank you so much. I think as a country, we thank God we have done fairly well. And we have done well because at the beginning, when we had only one case, certain measures were taken that have turned out positively. As we talk today from December, a lot of information, wisdom has been developed in the manner, setting out how we deal with this disease, and it seems to work. In March, in February, nothing much was known about the disease. So there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of guessing. But now we know there are specific ways and methods and manners in which you can control or even avoid the disease. You go into the countryside, you'll find that it's relatively relaxed and people are aware of it and people know what to be done. So I really expect the president to continue cautioning Kenyans, but also to ease in some of these things. If I was asked, I would want the curfew to be retained, not for purposes of containing corona, but for purposes of controlling crime. Now people are hurting, people are broke. They're going to break each other's necks. They'll go into Mutambo's house. They are mad, they are broke, they are whatever. So if I was the one making the decision, we would move curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. and then allow the vehicles that transport people overnight and so on, strictly those ones. But those who have no business loitering at night, they stay at home. I also think the bars, if they were to be open, they should have controlled 10 p.m. closure time and opening time, and there is regulation. It seems that we are now more healthy. There are fewer accidents because of it is related, the closure of the bars, washing of hands, observing these protocols. I also expect the president to give us the exact date of opening up schools. And it would have been better if we took this opportunity to chart a new term calendar. We want one which begins in January. We should have one that begins in June or July, in line with the government financial calendar, and or September, so that we move forward. We take advantage of the problem to chart our way in a better way. But we cannot just close down now that we have sufficient knowledge. Knowledge that even this thing, it hardly kills small children. So, and other than that, we also know God is with us. So we don't just expect the president to come and sing and tell us, oh, it is dangerous, it's dangerous. We have to move forward with the virus as we wait for the Americans and the Britons and others to get for us a vaccine. You know, as we are just crying in the streets, we are just crying in the bedroom, there's nothing much we are doing. So we would rather have controls lowered with certain directives, and all this, I thank our people of Kenya for taking this thing serious. We have seen a super where does not seriously, and you can see what's happening.
All right, and Honorable Mtambo, we live in a very hypocritical environment, and I say this because government is on one hand telling us that we should prepare for the worst and saying that we cannot let our guard down, yet the very leaders of government, we've seen them go about their campaign trail, particularly in the last few days, with zero, caution being taken to those who attend. And this, of course, is likely to affect how Kenyans are reacting. Even if we maintain the curfew, even if we continue with the curfew, Kenyans begin to feel like the government is literally playing one on us. Your thoughts on this, Honorable Mtambo?
I totally agree with you, Mike, and that school of thought that we are being told to stay at home. But it is the same people who are in power who are violent, and not only the government officers, even the members of parliament. I was in Mwingi last week, and I saw my member of parliament having meetings at 2 o'clock in the morning with the people, without no mask, without no water to wash their hands, and so those kind of things. So every Kenyan everywhere is flouting these rules. And you see these people, actually they are being escorted and guarded by the police. You see a member of parliament addressing a rally at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock at night with the police surrounding him. So you wonder what the hell is going on in our country, because nobody is following the law. If we could follow the law and adhere to the presidential directives that we stay at home, we could lower this pandemic even further. But the problem and the issue I'm having with me is that Kenyans, not only people and government, Kenyans, we don't keep or we don't observe the laws. Because if you call me to come and meet you at 1 o'clock, I should tell you, my brother, there is curfew, whether I'm not coming, because there is curfew, see you tomorrow. And if we maintain that, whether we'll have no rally to address, why are these Kenyans going out? As much as we want to blame the politicians for addressing these rallies, why are you Kenyans going out there to meet them? Why don't you do like Nyeri people? When Musalia went to meet people in Nyeri and he found nobody in the street, why are we showing them? You see, the problem is Kenyans, actually not the leaders. The leaders would want to take advantage of misfortunes of Kenyans, and Kenyans, we offer ourselves to be mistreated by leaders. So it is Kenyans themselves who are to blame, because if Ruto calls a rally in Kitengela and nobody comes out, Ruto will not go back there tomorrow. If Kalonzo Musyoka goes to Wotea, he wants to meet with the people there, and they don't come out, he will not go there tomorrow. There will be nobody to blame any other person. So the issue here, I will not entirely blame the leaders. I will blame all Kenyans because no Kenyans tend to abide to the laws. That is the problem.
Okay, and I want us to wind up on that, but what is likely to happen should the president even relax some of those rules? Of course, it will come with terms and conditions that even if pubs are going to be open, social distancing must be maintained. People must make sure that they're still wearing their masks. But given how we have seen the president, the deputy president, Raila Odinga, and some members of parliament like Honorable Mtambo has said, still carrying on with their rallies, then it will literally be falling on a deaf ear. And who is to blame? Definitely Kenyans feel that they're being taken for a ride. Your thoughts on this, Weda?
I think in this one, I would blame my good friend and my leader, President Uhuru Kenyatta, for announcing and issuing orders and issuing directives and issuing legislation about social distancing, wearing of masks, all these things. Yet then he leads in massive rallies where there's no social distancing, there is no this. And you know he's an icon. We follow him. We admire him. We want to do the way he does things. So if he tells us social distancing, then he goes to Kwamaiko and addresses a huge rally. What do we do? What do we tell our children? When the deputy president goes into a kiosk without a mask and a small kiosk, and then they take their sodas and then they come out, what options do they leave us with? Nothing. When Honorable Raila, the man we revere so much and I also admire so much, is also doing all these rallies. So I think these directives about social distancing and all these things and wearing a mask, let the president direct that the way he said, you're on your own. Please take care of your health. But for imposing it on people when they are doing otherwise, that would be insulting our intelligence. I think at this time even the churches should be open, all these things. But I said the curfew to be maintained not for purposes of corona control, but for purposes of crime control, because now people are broken and they are going to break other people's neck to get the little they have. Bars will be open, but I still think there should be control, not because of corona, but the effect. We have seen there are fewer road accidents, people are more cleaner, they hardly go to hospital, all these things. So the health benefit and the security benefit should form more of these decisions than the platitudes they give us. Oh, this, oh, that, then they do the very opposite.
All right. Let's move on to something else as we have only another 10 minutes or so before we wind up the way it is and get into sports. Honorable Mtambo, we have the Tanga wing of Jubilee government now coming out to say that Huduma Number is something that, could be used against Kenyans, particularly for 2022. Do you feel this is just propaganda that is being peddled by the Tanga wing of Jubilee?
I will not agree with my friends from Tanga when they say the Huduma Number will be used to rig the election, because the same government has the entire information. What you give to the state when you are registering as to get that Huduma Number, the government already has it. If it is your ID, the custodian of your ID number is the government. If it is your school living certificate, the custodian of that certificate is the government. All the documentations which are required, the government has them. So to me, I think this is a good thing. Because, I've lived in America and I know how these numbers work, social security numbers. To have these social security numbers networked so that I can tell whether went to this school, was born on this particular date, and he's still alive, he has not died, so tomorrow you will not come and vote. As opposed to when you have a system where when I die today, whether I will sneak to Ukambani because he lives in those areas and get my ID and vote on my behalf. So this system, we should not fight it, we should embrace it. It is not going to be used in any manner to steal vote. So I am not going to support them when they say it's being used to rig election. You cannot rig election by using your data, which the government already has. The government has this information. I have gone through this kind of narrative before when we were registering for people with the old age to give them some money. And there was a propaganda by the opposition then. You know what? When you give your ID, you are voting, so don't register. The mothers today are complaining in Ukabani because they never registered to be beneficial, to be benefiting from that money from the government. So today they're asking me, Motambu, where is that registration? We want to register now. I tell them, oh, it's too late. You are told you are voting when you register. So let us not be taken for a ride by a politician.
All right.
Politicians, be honest and tell Kenyans the honest thing if you want to survive. If you want to make the country a good country, let us put in place measures where the country can be well governed. But let us not politicize everything. Me, I say it as it is. Because the issues they are bringing on board is that government is the custodian of all that information.
All right. Let me hear from Weda, and whether your take on this, whether it's purely propaganda that is being peddled by the Tanga wing of Jubilee. But the issue is that, you know, they say that nature abhors a vacuum, and government has kept this information somewhat secretive. We don't have that much information as to what happened to the Huduma number, and that, of course, creates an environment, a fertile environment for propaganda. Do you feel that government should have communicated better as to where we are with the Huduma number to avoid this kind of propaganda peddling?
Yeah, I think they should have told us the last time we did registration, how far we have gone, the kind of data they have, whether they have synchronized it, whether it works well. But that Huduma number will be used for rigging, that is propaganda squared. Remember, we have IDs, but those IDs are only for people of 18 and above. What about people who are 18 and below, 17 and below? Where are they registered? Each person should be registered. The moment a child is born, the day of birth, that is when the registration starts. You know so and so, the day you die, the registration shows so and so has died. Having these numbers are not related to election. America, which is a leading superpower, has social security numbers. We emulate the best. So are they using their numbers for rigging elections? Sometimes
no, but the issue here is not whether Huduma number is a good idea. It's a brilliant idea. In fact, Covid-19 reveals to us that this would have been a strike of genius should we have got it right, because then we would know people's economic status. With cash transfers, we would have known the elderly who need this money. But unfortunately, like I said, nature abhors a vacuum, and government has not been very open in what has happened to that Huduma number such that it can be misused.
You see, they are specifically saying misuse in rigging elections. That is the one I'm disputing. Now, secondly, the deputy president has been there and his allies over the years. It is only a few months ago that he has been tossed out by some people. So the way they are creating fear over the Huduma number is itself dangerous. Having that number is good. Either way, whoever chooses to misuse it, it is not because the number is there, but it is because the fellow has chosen to misuse it. Mm-hmm. For now, we need to know the registration, what was there, the material we have, how it is being used. But whether or not it relates to election, that is what I'm saying. It is wrong to insinuate that it will be used for rigging. Each Kenyan needs to be registered and to have all the details done, not special for people who only have over 18 or have passports. It is a good idea, and it has nothing to do with stealing elections, if you ask me. I don't see how they are related. It could be misused, but I don't see how they are related.
You don't see how they are related. All right, Honorable Mtambo, do you feel that government possibly should have also given us more information and be more open with what the Huduma number has achieved so far and what it is required to do? We have the information of what it is supposed to be, but Kenyans, of course, are left in doubt because that information is missing.
Mike, I'm not a government spokesman, but it is in public domain that some Kenyans went to court to stop this Huduma number business. And Weda will tell you, when matters are in court, you don't discuss them. He's a lawyer. And it was stopped by the court. Until now, when the matter is being finalized in the court, we cannot even talk much about this Huduma number because the matter was in the court, and it is Kenyans themselves who went to sue Interior Ministry and stopped this business of Huduma number. When I can tell you that these matters are in court. So if they were in the court, at what time was the government supposed to come and start talking about them? Whether we'll run to court and say, no, it is perjury. The government is talking about these Huduma numbers and the matter is in the court. So let us get arrest warrant for so and so because it's contravening the same laws. So, I mean, we need to be fair also to our own government. If you sue the government over the same issue, why do you expect it to give you information? And you have sued it, you have ganked the same government. So this is what I know, this is what is my knowledge, and I know it is in the public domain, Mike. So we should not expect much. If we sue the same government and the matter is stopped by the court, then we expect the same government to be giving us or furnishing us with information. Yet they have been gagged by the court. We should be a government which observes the law, and we should also. Who knows that if this thing is good, people just go to court for the sake of trying to get a mileage of, I don't know, PR or anything. They don't know what they are opposing. And at the end of the day, you are told proceed with it. Why did you go to court? If the matter has been thrown out with cost, why did you take the government to court? Because the government came up with this, with this Huduma number so that it can plan itself. And for economic reasons, for the planning, it is important to know the numbers you have and who lives there, where, who has what, who has what kind of a land. I remember when this Huduma number was being, the data was being collected, there were so many questions which were being asked. How many land do you have? How many TVs do you have? How do you use internet? All those kind of things. This is the only information which can be used to serve Kenyans better. But people they just run to the ultimate thing, which will agitate people. The votes are being stolen. How can your vote be stolen when it is in your pocket?
In your pocket. All right, we'll need to wind up shortly, gentlemen. Yes, sir. Yes, and I'd like us to finish off maybe with just your thoughts on what to expect this week. Yesterday was World Tourism Day, and there was a concert held in Mombasa. And going by that, it looks like we are literally back to, default, where everything is running as usual. On the Daily Nation, we have on page 10, Coast tourists cite seek path out of COVID conundrum. And of course, tourism is one of those that has taken a major, major hit. Your closing remarks, whether on, the week ahead, particularly as we expect the president is going to announce whether we're going to relax those laws. What message do you have for Kenyans, or what would you like to let Kenyans know, whether?
I would like to tell my fellow Kenyans that after all, your health depends on yourself. And it has been proven now by the scientists that keeping just that 2-meter distance works. Wearing the mask works. And if we do this, then we can go about our businesses, washing our hands, even sharing a vehicle and all this. Let us observe these things carefully, especially in the city centers, the cities which are congested, so that the economy opens slowly. We do not relapse back, and then we try to get back to our normal life. Those who have eaten school fees, please gather up quickly, because our children somehow have to get back to school because things look to be better. Finally, we are each other's keeper. So you may not be fearing corona, but fear it for the sake of your brother, for the sake of your sister, for the sake of Job Mutambo, and for the sake of weather. Let's do this and we shall overcome. Without it, we relapse and it becomes a problem, we close down. If the economy closes down today, then it will be very, very much worse for us. So may God bless you and continue to thank God for the far we have come with success.
All right, Honorable Mutambo, your closing remarks very briefly. We're out of time.
It is very true that the rules have been set, but unfortunately those rules have not been followed. So I'm wondering, even if the president extends the curfew, what will be the purpose? It will be, it will serve no purpose, because I am in a situation whereby I am accepted, and sometimes I drive at night when I'm going to look at which pipe has busted where, or which leg has taken away people's land. And when I'm driving back home at night, I see cars just like normal ways. So I'm wondering, what is the purpose of these curfews? As much as we want to put the curfews for the pandemic, Kenyans are not following. As the issue of keeping social distances, if like what Wed has said, the president, the deputy president, Raila Kalonzo, and everybody are leading in bringing masses together, who is going to listen to who? That is one of the big questions. So my big, my advice to the leaders is, if you preach water, do not drink wine. Just do the way you tell people to do, behave and be an example to your country. If you do not want people to gather together, don't call people for a meeting. If you do not want Mutambo to go and start his rallies tomorrow, do not do yours, because if you do yours, I will do mine. And there's no lesser Kenyan and a super Kenyan. We are all equal in the eyes of the law. We should follow the law. Lastly, what I wanted to remind Kenyans, Mike, I know we do not have time for this, but Kenyans are crying about what Maraga did. I just want to remind Parliament to go back and look at Mutambo bill. I had brought a cure to all this problem Parliament is going through. I want them to read Mutambo bill. It was a very good bill. Had they enacted it, we would not be in this situation where we are in today. Maraga is just following the law, and the law says any Kenyan can petition the Supreme Court to dissolve Parliament, and the Kenyans petitioned Maraga to dissolve Parliament, and Maraga heeded to that. Whether will tell you, when he goes to court, knowing that I'm supposed to get these orders, and he is given, he will run across country, bragging, I went to court and got orders, and I need auctioneers to go and auction Mutambo because he did not pay rent, all these kind of things. This is what lawyers do. It is the law being followed.
All right.
And law is an us. And it cuts across.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. That's Honorable Joe Mutambo, former Member of Parliament, Mwingi Central, and also Canon Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer. Thank you for joining us on The Way It Is this morning, just to weigh in on what's happening politically speaking. It is now just 8 minutes after 8 o'clock. Time for us to take a short break. Do stay with us right here. We've got Matters Sports coming up with Robin Toskin not too long from now. So we take that break, but do stay with us.